Carmentary, Neil here everybody. I'm gonna go real quick here to a comment that I got this morning and we'll respond to that. I had a question. What do you think about the step-on bindings? Now this was a comment on the video I did yesterday talking about bindings in general and what Japanese snow surfing style snowboarders prefer and the reasons why. So you can go and look at that video if you want to hear about that. I did not mention step-on bindings or step-in bindings, whatever you want to call them, in my chat yesterday, mainly because I pretty much ignore anything that has step-in or step-on in the name. It's like, no thanks. That's my personal opinion. I'm a bit prejudiced against those types of bindings for a couple reasons. But before we get into my personal opinions, in general in Japan, we are starting to see more and more of the step-on binding, which it is now called. A little history for you, by the way. Burton originally released the step-in binding. I believe it was very late 90s. I used them right away. At the time, I was involved in a TV show called No Matter Board here in Japan, which is a snowboarding TV show. And we were able to get our hands on the products a little, right away, basically, through the Burton distributor. And it was exciting at the time. It was like, yeah, wow, this is going to be the coolest thing ever. It does sound like it's going to take you closer to a surfing kind of experience. You don't have to reach down and do this ratchet thing. At the time, the straps on snowboard bindings were much more painful in the 90s. Much more painful. The binding strap evolution, I think, is one of the best things ever. Right now, pretty much across the board, all brands have seemed to have worked it out. There might be some really bad ones, but the ones I talked about yesterday all have really comfortable straps. So yeah, it was like, hey, we can just step on the board and you're gonna feel, more of that kind of surfing feel without not like you're being strapped down to the board. Well, it turns out in the late 90s, the product design and the engineers and the people who put it together, I'm sure, hey, good on you, they did great work. But looking back now, or even at that time after one season, I think I rode them for one season, I ended up taking the step-ins to Alaska of all places and riding like 40-degree slopes in Alaska on Burton Supermodel, like a 168 or whatever it was, and step-in bindings. And the boots were just, they were not good. The inners were not good either. You had the ratchet strap on the boot. So eventually it was like, what's the point? I gotta kind of reach down there and tighten down the boot anyway. I had my foot come out of the binding once. There's always those issues of like, is it really locked in, especially in a place like Alaska where you're on really, really steep slopes. Trying to step in to a binding like that on a really steep slope is also not the easiest thing. So I got rid of them and I never went back. Now, what was it? 2 years ago? 3 years? I don't know, when was it? It was in the last couple of years that Burton decided to redo it and try it again. And I guess the system, has improved a little bit, the way it locks your foot in. Obviously, I think the boots are going to be much better. A lot of people, riders that I know who, were riders for Burton, or some who, like, a good example is Uemura, my good friend who rides for Field Earth. He uses Burton step-ons now. He's got a contract to ride their boots and bindings, and they said to him, hey, we want you to ride the step-ons, and he rides them amazingly well. He says he's got no complaints, and the most important thing, his riding style and the way he looks riding, I don't see any difference. I always felt that you used to see a difference, and I think there's still like minuscule style difference that you will get from someone who's riding step-ons than someone who's riding just normal strap bindings. And it's, you know, I look at that stuff in ridiculous detail because I'm taking photos or I'm shooting video and I'm looking at this thing like over and over again. And if it's someone who I've known for many years and I saw how they rode before they rode step-ins or step-ons, I can see the change very easily. So I'm not saying it's a terrible product now. I think it's a good product for a certain group of people. Your really high-end riders, they're so good they can ride anything. It's like if you gave a baseball player a really crappy bat and mitt, it'd still hit a home run, you know? It's not gonna, but if you really like pushed him on it, it'd be like, yeah, I think I'd prefer my really good bat. But yeah, you can still hit a home, you know what I mean? I think it's like that. I think the main market that everyone is looking for is the high beginner to the intermediate rider. There's that kind of zone where there's a lot of people in there, and obviously it's the promotional aspect of you won't have to sit down and on the ground. You know, snowboarders, they do kind of look goofy when you're sitting on the ground strapping in, then you got to try to get up, and there's a lot of people who maybe they don't have the stomach muscles or what it is required to like stand up easily. So, you know, you want to be able to just put your board down and just step in and go. You know, I get it. I get it. Okay. I think you can tell my attitude to step in, to step on. Let's do a little more history talk though, and bring it back to the snowsurfers, because there is a real link and a real history between step-ins and the snow surfing style and community here in Japan. And that goes back to the K2 clicker system. Is that what it was? Or was it Shimano? Sorry. I guess it was originally developed by Shimano. So Shimano, the bike part company, right? Fishing, is that what they also do? I believe they do fishing. Japanese company who makes really tech bicycle stuff that everyone loves, fishing gear, and I don't know, maybe some other stuff. Anyway, they've got skills in making really technical products, and maybe someone in the company liked to snowboard. I don't know why it started, but they made the clicker system, and then I believe it was eventually bought out by K2. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that's kind of my memory. I never personally used them. Never once have I put my foot in them, so I can't really speak from personal experience. But there was a huge community of people, especially in the Niseko area, and specifically the Genten crew, Takaku Tomoki at Powder Guides, all those guys, like pretty much all of them, as far as I can remember, were riding the K2 clicker system or the Shimano system. Yonex, another Japanese brand who makes badminton rackets and tennis rackets and stuff like that, also really high-tech company. They used the system as well. I think it was some kind of an OEM partnership, so they had Yonex branded clicker systems as well. Now that one, it was not attaching the boot to the binding on the side, but attaching the boot to the binding on the toe and the heel. So you had this toe to heel locking mechanism rather than a side to side locking mechanism. So very kind of different concept, but the real reason that all the snow surfer guys got into it in the beginning, and I really believe this is my thought, but I really believe this is true. There's a lot of competition to get first tracks off of the lifts in Niseko. And even today, even more so today, because there's more people now. So being the first in line, or being one of the first groups of people in line, is super important. But then when you get off the lift with a snowboard, you only have your front foot strapped in or stepped in. You get in, you slide off, and you want to get that rear foot in and go as soon as possible so that you can be down the slope getting those first tracks in the powder. And that really consumed everyone in the early days. Skiers had the advantage. They're already strapped in. they get off and they're like pushing away, dropping in. Snowboarders always had that, you had to learn how to like do a couple pushes, put your rear foot in, and be strapping in while looking towards where you want to go so you don't hit anybody, and do the whole strap thing, by feel. Grab the ratchet and be like, okay. There was a lot of pressure to do that. So when the step-ins came out, it was like a no-brainer. Everyone was like, oh, dude, I'm just gonna like get off the lift, click in, and go. And you did always then see the people with the clicker system, like they're trying to like get their rear foot in. They're like, click, 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 click. Come on. The damn thing is like a little metal part that hooks into this little metal part. And, powder's stuck in there. There's some ice in there, whatever. I don't know. I just always thought it was funny. I was more into the like, just strap in as you go. And, I had pretty good balance and I could do that. Or I was just like, I don't need to be the very first one down there. That stuff kind of, I don't know. I don't feel the need to be number one. Number 4 or 5 is fine, man. There's some lines in there. Now maybe I can go faster and see what I'm doing. So I never had that urge to go and buy that system. But as I said, there were a lot of guys into it. It was very prominent right up until the brands all just stopped producing it. You also had the compatibility between snowshoes and the bindings. So a lot of people, I guess was it a custom made thing, like, or handmade? I don't know how people were doing that, but they would have the step-in plate on their snowshoes so that you didn't have any straps or any ropes or anything coming off your snowshoes, and you could just click into your snowshoes and go, click out, click into your board and go. So that was like, and they had the clicker system where the high back was built into the boot, and they had it towards the end where you had a high back on the binding. So there were different variations. I did not like the looks or the feel of the boot with the high back built in. Basically, it's a very stiff boot. You've got a lot of stiffness, so when you walk, it was kind of clunky. Also, the soles were really thick, and they had these two metal pipes, like little rods sticking out of the side. That's what you clicked into, if I remember correctly. And so you had to have room for that big chunk of metal in the sole. And yeah, I thought they were kind of like big and heavy and ugly, and I didn't think it was very stylish, so never got into it. But as I said, there were a lot of people into it. Now, bringing it back to the present day and to wrap things up, 2 things. First of all, the Burton step-on system, I do not see many of the snow surf crowd using them, to be honest. Very few. I don't know why that is. I don't really have an answer for that. I just think there's a lot of choice in bindings, and just sort of has come back to sort of, what's wrong with straps, man? It's like they're nice. You can adjust them on the fly. You can crank them down while you're riding. Like, you can't like boa down your boots while you're riding. That's kind of tricky. But the strap, you just reach down and crank it down if it's loose. So it seems like that now is the standard for the snow surfing style. The most recent binding technology that we can talk about, and I have a pair on order. I'm kind of waiting for them. Geez, the name of the brand is slipping me here. Is it, I want to say, it's not Battalion. Oh man, now I've ruined my Carmentary. I can't remember the brand name. Maybe it'll come to me. There's a new binding. Well, okay, let's go back one more. So you had the flow bindings. We didn't talk about that yesterday. The flow bindings, that came out a long time ago. The fold down high back with the rear entry, and you had this sort of wide strap over your foot that you would sort of preset to the right fit, and you would just kick your foot in, and then you would pull up the high back and it would lock. I bought a pair straight away. When they first came out, I was like, oh, this is gonna be the bomb. It's the best of both worlds. And it kind of was. Little difficulty in the early days with that strap over your foot. Was very stiff, wasn't very pliable. It was hard to get it to the right size. But the real issue with the rear entry, the real problem, it's hard to do in deep powder, and it's even harder to do on any kind of a slope. And here in Hokkaido and in Japan, you invariably have to walk at some point. If you're doing any side country or any backcountry kind of snowboarding, there will be some section where you need to climb up a little bit to get up and then get speed and continue or whatever. And in those times, you know, getting out of the binding, maybe not a big issue, but getting back into it on a place where you're on some kind of steepness, you have to then face the mountain. So you're on your toe edge, kick in and pull it up. It's not as comfortable. It's far more comfortable to make a little, stomp out a little spot on a steep slope for your board on your heel edge. You're looking down, you've got your balance, it feels normal, you can look around, put your foot down, strap in. Very simple. The rear entry, you need room for the high back to fold down, and then you gotta be able to kick your foot in, and when you kick your foot in with force, the board moves, and there's all kinds of little issues with that. And I gave up on it right away. I bought another pair of flow bindings, I think it was like 3 years ago. They were much updated and better. I still think they're a good binding, and you get great reaction on the heel edge. But again, same problem. It's just a little troublesome. Just a little troublesome. So this new binding technology, I still can't remember the name of the brand. Damn it. It's a combination of a step-on and a rear entry. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about if you're into this kind of stuff. The heel back folds down a little bit, and like the heel cup, part of it kind of raises up. It's hard to explain. Basically, it lifts up the entryway, so you got more room to get in. So that solves the issue with the flow bindings being a little tight when you're trying to get your foot in there. And you sort of put your foot in, then you step down, and automatically the heel, the back comes up and locks you in. That's my super simpleton explanation of it. You can go to their website, whatever the name of the brand is, and look at it in detail. Oh man, I can't believe I don't remember what it's called. So I'm really interested in that because that's a new concept, and hey, kind of sounds like it could be the best of everything. Rear entry, step on, strap, plus that was the other thing, you can use it just as a normal strap-in binding. I think that was the key that sold me on the concept. So that way, if you're on steep slopes or in deep powder and you just need the high back, you want to hold the high back, you want to be able to put your foot down, strap in, you can do that. But if you're on a course, it's a hard packed day, a groomer day, you just want to like kick your foot in, step down and go. You don't have to reach down and pull up on something. That's another one. The other thing, and we'll close on this because god damn, I can talk about bindings forever, can't I? The new iteration of the step-ons, the way you have to get out of them, there's like that little release tab. I guess, is it on the inside of the foot? I think it's on the inside of the foot. There's like a little hook that you kind of have to pull up, and at the same time you have to like laterally like lift up the inside of your foot or the outside, I don't know, whichever it is, to get it out, and then you come out. And when I see people doing it, it's so uncomfortable looking. It's a weird kind of contortion that you have to do to get down there. You're trying to get your, you're using your right hand to get your right foot out, and then you're pulling up on this thing, but you also have to pull up on your foot at the same time. And I see people do it, and they can't get out right away. And then they're struggling with it. And I'm like, man, that just ruins it, doesn't it? Like, maybe it was easy at the top of the mountain, but you look really uncomfortable and ugly at the bottom of the mountain. And that's where everybody, people see you. You come riding up to the lift line and everybody's standing there and you're like, and then you end up falling over anyway. Like, I don't know about that. There needs to be a better release. Like, you need a little button up here that you can just be like, click, and it's like, you come out, We need a little remote control ejection from the step-ons. That would be great. Little button, you just press it. Both feet, you just pop out. You're like, boom, land next to the board. Board flies up and you grab it. There's the future, man. Get ChatGPT on that one. Work that out. All right, folks. Another long, probably rather obnoxious talk about step-ins. I hope that was interesting. I'll be back with more. Keep the comments coming. I really appreciate them. It's a lot of fun, and we'll keep the conversation going. Later. Drive safe.